that all our speakers are here. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for joining this webinar today. So I'll be starting by presenting myself. So I am Deborah from the Human Capital team, and I'm currently based in Mauritius. And it's been nearly 5 years now that I've been working with Castile. So for all those who've never heard about Castile before, so Castile is an international company, and our headquarters is based in Malta, but we also have branches in Mauritius and Ireland. And we are one of the leading brands in tech and finance industry, offering services like certified remote teams, permanent hires, and digital employer branding. So as you can all see today, we have a very diverse panel, amongst which we have people coming from different time zones. Actually, we have 3 speakers from Malta, and I would like to present to you Chantal, who is our managing consultant at Castile, and she brings with her 5 years of experience in talent and acquisition. Actually, Chantal obtained her master's degrees in organizational psychology while working at Castile at the same time. And in fact, she started her experience as being a consultant, and she gradually progressed to her current position, which is managing consultant both in tech and finance desk. We also have amongst our panel Emma today, who is the Senior Manager of People and Culture at Go. Actually, Emma brings with her solid experience in HR, and her role consists of handling the Go Academy, the Performance and Development umbrella, as well as ensuring the well-being of Go's employees. I'm also pleased to introduce you to Onyinye. Onyinye is our Senior QA Engineer at Castile. Actually, Onyinye comes from Nigeria, but she's currently located in Canada. I would like to send my special thanks to you today, Onyinye, for joining this webinar, knowing that it's very, very early for you right now, but you've managed to find some time for us. And coming back to her background, so Onyinye has a vast experience in the fintech domain, actually. We also have Hannah, which is another contractor of ours, and she's been working with us for the past 1 year now for one of our clients being in the betting industry. Hannah is from Ethiopia, and she currently holds the position of a senior front-end developer, bringing with her 6 years of experience in Angular and JavaScript. Last but not least, we have Sarah. Sarah is majored in AI and mathematics, and she even earned a first-class degree actually in this field. As of now, Sarah has around 10 years of experience in the Java field, and she's currently leading a team of 3 people. So she's currently acting as a software development team lead at Melita, which is one of the biggest telecommunication client in her region. Before kicking off to the next step, I would like to inform all of you that this is a recorded session for all those who could not make it today. And we also have a Q&A feature whereby the audience, you can actually drop down your questions, but we shall tackle at the end of the session. Okay, so if you're all ready, let's dive into the topic of today, which is women in technology. Actually, women in technology have long been underrepresented, but over the years, we have seen more women breaking through the barriers and making significant contributions to the field. So according to you, ladies being in our panel today, how have you seen the role of women in technology evolve over the years? So I'm not going to pinpoint everyone, so whoever feels ready to answer, go ahead. Thank you.
I can go ahead from my end. So basically, in most recent years, I do feel there has been a push to increase women in technology. I really do feel companies are recognizing the value in diversity and inclusion, but in also finding new ways and new solutions on how to not only attract, but also retain a more diverse workforce. I also feel there are more initiatives aimed at promoting women in tech. Having said this, there was only just over 10% of women pursuing STEM careers in Malta compared to 33% of their male counterparts. So I do really feel there's a way to go. I feel the bigger concern here than women working in the tech industry is women occupying tech roles in general, such as software development, engineering, and so on. And I believe before we start kind of addressing these concerns, we won't be able, obviously, to keep decreasing the talent gap that we have. Education is vital, so not intentionally and not consciously, but probably a lot of us or most people, when they hear the word STEM, they think of men. If we had to think of a famous scientist, with probably a lot of people would think of a male scientist first. So girls, unfortunately, are so significantly less supported when it comes to pursuing tech careers by their parents, by teachers, by their peers. Teachers and parents are so significant and have such a significant influence when it comes to encouraging them and providing equal educational opportunities for them to pursue these tech careers. I mean, whether it is, I don't know, giving them positive messages on their abilities or raising awareness that girls are definitely as capable as it comes to boys in not only tech roles, but in anything. Also, I think there needs to be much more discussion around the benefits of what working in the tech role is. We don't speak about the benefits enough. There are also a number of programs placed at the university that support women in tech, definitely. But I think there still needs to be stronger internship opportunities and stronger mentoring and coaching for girls coming into the workforce. So my answer is yes, there has been slight progress, but I think we're on a journey and there's a way to go, basically.
Okay, thank you for sharing those insights with us. Chantel, given that you are also you also have the HR background, so what's your opinion about this? Do you agree with what Emma said, actually?
I believe, yes, we're in mutual agreement, me and Emma. I think the main major issue that women have faced along the years is the lack of inclusion. I mean, let's be honest, let's be frank, the IT world has not been traditionally considered as an example of gender equality. Unfortunately, I think it's the most underrepresented field. Gender bias has been so obvious and tagged. Many people, as Emma said, people nowadays automatically assume any tech-related role, any science-related role, to be a male-oriented role. Having said that, as highlighted by Emma as well, I don't believe that we didn't do any improvements along the years. I think there's been improvements. We have seen the percentage of women in senior IT leadership roles. Even when we speak to candidates, there has been an increase significantly. And this is all because, of course, the number of women in the workforce increased, but also it is plausible to the increase of young girls expressing their interest. I think as we go along, more young girls are expressing their interest in computer-related subjects. Women are making huge success in tech, and we are starting to see more and more women in prominent tech roles. However, I believe that such success should not inhibit further improvement, because unfortunately it tends to happen that whenever we see a spike, it tends to sort of, we see, okay, now the problem is resolved. However, I believe that there's still huge improvements to be done. Over the years, I believe I saw more companies acknowledging that having a mixed gender management and having a mixed gender employees is beneficial, not only for the delivery of service of goods of the company, but also in terms of profitability, revenues, and also ideas coming up from the team members. And therefore, I believe in order to improve the situation of women in as tech professionals, we must address today's issues, which are still persistent, I believe. They are common in all fields, but especially in tech, I believe, when it comes to gender pay gap, the assumption we make that men should take sort of the lead when it comes to tech roles. I believe there's still a long way to go, as Emma, in fact, highlighted.
Okay. And based upon what you've just mentioned to me, how can companies actually encourage greater representation of women in the industry?
Yes, I believe, like we said, we are seeing more initiatives to increase women in tech positions. As a talent advisory professional, recently I have noticed various initiatives. First of all, companies are seeking to take a more gender-neutral approach when it comes to recruitment. Such an initiative, first of all, is by educating your hiring managers in terms of writing neutral job descriptions, not only estimating he or she, but gender neutral. And also, when it comes to recruitment and onboarding processes, being also gender neutral. Sometimes in recruitment, we see such interviews being carried out in a certain way in order to favor men more than women. So that's a gender neutral approach. One other thing I believe as well, various companies are also making sure to be diligent about their advertisement and job descriptions. I mean, if we are diligent to avoid gender bias advertisement, it's also going to encourage more women to apply for such roles. Finally, I think the best tool in order to attract more women in such positions is mentoring. I believe that future generations, future girls who would eventually occupy senior tech leadership positions can only do so by seeing other women taking the lead and giving them their experience at schools, in events, in talks. So I believe companies should also sponsor their companies to events, to talks, to schools, in order to encourage more girls to take part in such conferences and in such fields. Sorry. Of course, I believe there are no quick fixes in becoming gender equal, but at least by implementing such changes, we also can improve the situation significantly over the years.
Okay. Thanks a lot for this answer. And Emma, given you are handling with Girls Academy, is it something that you are doing in your workplace, that is providing trainings to interns or to women?
So yes, definitely. So obviously many things that I will cover, obviously from a Go perspective, is what Chantel mentioned, the measures that Chantel mentioned. So obviously, yes, as a company, there is a humongous and huge responsibility to support women to thrive in today's digital workforce. First of all, I think it's about creating an inclusive environment, and this is through companies ensuring that their policies and practices promote this, such as, providing hybrid and flexible working. At Go, we introduced a non-birthing parent leave policy, whereby we give the non-birthing parent 4 weeks to stay with their child and also help the woman transition back into work. Also providing the same, obviously, equal opportunities to any employee. So when it comes to upskilling themselves, the same training opportunities, developing in their careers, so obviously getting promotions and so on. And also, as Chantel mentioned, super important, inclusive recruitment strategies always. I think we really have a responsibility as well to really showcase our female tech role models. So all the people on this call should be kind of, showcased next to their male counterparts, to not only keep raising the fact that women are just as capable as men, but also to inspire girls to take up roles in a tech field. And lastly, that Chantel mentioned as well is companies need to work not only hand in hand, but build and maintain strong relationships with education institutions in order to keep promoting this with girls through internships, through seminars, through workshops. So examples we have at Go is obviously we have yearly internships. So at the moment, I think we have 12 interns with us, obviously, you know, in all our departments across the company. We teamed up with the Maltese education department, and we invited 30 Form 3 students to spend 2 days with our tech teams, you know, to see what their daily work is like and to expose them as well. We create some activities for our employees' kids, for their nieces, for their nephews, you know, to expose them and they start from like 3. So we have like loads of kids from like age 4, let's say upwards to 12, to expose them very early on to the tech world. So I think all these measures are super important in kind of encouraging and increasing that interest of women coming into the tech world.
Okay, thanks a lot for answering me. So I'll shift my focus a little bit more to our technical ladies being here. So if I may ask, what were the reason why you moved towards this career? What made you, you know, wanting to work as a software developer, a QA engineer, or a front-end engineer?
So I'll start with this, if I may. So first of all, thanks for having me. I'm very glad to be here. So since a very young age, I've always had this passion for computing, believe it or not, and I'm sure that's what led me to pursue a career in this industry. I started out as a junior software developer, and I slowly and gradually made my way to where I am today as a software development team lead. That's like 10 years ago since I joined. So the word of encouragement I would give to women who, like me, share the same passion is to aim as high as you can, go as far as you want, but slowly and gradually work your way to where you want to be with hard work and determination. There will obviously be struggles and there'll be obstacles that you need to overcome. And some of this are going to be due to the fact that you're going to be one of very few or possibly the only woman in the team. And unfortunately, that is most probably going to happen, is the reality we're living in. And the way I handle it is when these issues do come up, I handle them there and then. I don't let it consume me too much. I don't think about it too much. And let's not put all men in the same bucket, right? Like from experience, I've had issues with men, with far few men than I've worked with. So I think that's very important. We can't go to work, you know, in defensive mode, like prepared for an attack, because we spend most of our day at work. It's just not a healthy way to spend your day. Other than that, it's very important to believe in yourself, be confident, be strong, and don't let anything hold you back from speaking your opinions, your thoughts, coming up with solutions, even if they're different to what others think. Just that's, I think for me, the most important thing is that. Other than that, obviously, just let's all do our best, because that's the best we can do. That's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah or Onyinye, would you like to add something upon what Sarah just mentioned?
So for me, just like Sarah, I think what attracted me to tech is the fact that I basically get to be a part of making an impact in shaping lives, right, and the future through technology, right. I was drawn to the fact that there are creative ways to actually solve problems with tech, right. So you're making a difference in people's lives through products and services. To me, that was the selling point for me for tech. In addition to what was said about encouragement, right? I think I would encourage women to be confident in their abilities. Let's not let imposter syndrome hold us back, right? The truth is, it can be intimidating to be in a male-dominated field. The truth is, we have just as much potential to succeed in tech as anyone else, right? So by supporting and empowering each other, we can actually break this barrier, right, and make tech field even more welcoming to everybody. So yeah, that's it for me.
It's really interesting what you've just mentioned right now, and I totally agree with you. And maybe what are some of the initiatives that your company has taken, okay, and that you feel that today you are at ease within your environment?
All right, so I'm gonna have to answer this question as a working mom, because I have a beautiful almost 3-year-old daughter, and I still feel like, especially here in Malta, right? I have to speak for Malta, but I feel that in Malta there's still this misconception that the woman is responsible to take care of the family and the man goes out to work. Because honestly, how many men do you actually know who opted for reduced hours, work part-time, or actually stopped working altogether to care for the family? And why should we as parents have our only choice would be to opt for one of this to be able to care for our family? What if instead we're given the flexibility to be able to manage our time to care for our family while still giving the same amount of work? If we mix then remote working to this, I believe that this would really help towards breaking the bias and encourage even more women to our industry. And I think that this industry makes it really easy for this kind of setup, because speaking for myself, I come from software development. What I need to work with is just a laptop and at most a pair of headphones, right? And I'm saying all this from experience because I do have this kind of flexibility. I had obviously issues with struggling personal life and work. So I spoke with my manager and he agreed to this without hesitation. No, the he, by the way, he's a man. He agreed to it without hesitation, and I'm obviously very grateful for that. Because I know if I didn't have this flexibility, we wouldn't have a choice. It would either be me or my husband who need to reduce hours. Now I know that since COVID, the idea of working from home has become more common, but I still feel that companies need to make mainstream a bit more this idea of flexibility, like make it a natural option for parents to opt for. Like, for example, myself, if I had to move from where I am today, I would, need to ask my interviewer, listen, can I opt for this? Can I not? If they say no, it's definitely not a good fit for me. So that's obviously I'm a parent. Not everyone is a parent, but everyone has their personal life to deal with. Everyone has their issues. So, and it's also important, and this is not only available for women, right? Why not have the men, give the flexibility to men as well? That's what I really believe. And as I said, I say this from experience because I honestly don't know what I would have done otherwise. So that's very important for me right now.
That's a very good insight, and happy to see that companies are offering flexibility. Even at Castile, we offer flexibility. And Onyinye or Hannah, so what were the initiatives that you've seen within your working environment?
So to add from my side, on top of what Sarah has said, it's very important to work on the community and also in the company itself to improve the number of women that pursue technology as a career. So the first thing in society is the first problem that we have in the community is people just assume women are not capable of working in technology. So that bias exists within all of us. So we are questioning if we are able to do things, if we have the capacity to make the change. So in order to resolve this kind of problem, we have to work, companies need to work with schools, universities to create more women to join, take fields to study, take related subjects and the like. So in order to create this kind of scenario, companies can create webinars, conferences, tech dojos, so employees can share their knowledge within each other, and also that they can create an influence for the outside world, and create the influence and show how women can work in technology, and show women in leadership role, and it's possible to be there. And one of the things is working in the society. The other thing will be working inside the company, as they have mentioned earlier, removing gender biases from job descriptions, and avoiding unintentional exclusions. So there are some unintentional exclusions. People are doing this to actually avoid women, but there are some activities that you can see that will discourage people to speak up their minds and to do their jobs to the highest limit that they can. So avoiding this unintentional exclusions can also work inside companies, in my opinion.
Listening to you seems like I have an impression that bias was something that, you know, was a biggest one of a challenge for you. So how today, if I may ask, how did you deal with this challenge, and what would be the solutions actually that you'll provide to the audience who are listening to us today? So it might be aspiring future developers or people looking for senior roles. So based upon your working experience, so what are the challenges that you've been facing, and what would be the solution that you'll give to others today?
Okay, so in my opinion, to avoid biases and to create a neutral environment for everyone, will be women intake has to take the control on this one, speak up their minds, and having a better communication skill, and looking for mentors as well. And being a mentor itself is a very good way to show others what you're capable of, and let them shine, and show what they're actually capable of. And the other thing is always share your ideas and opinions, and what you have in mind, because I see this problem in myself as well. When we have any questions or ideas, we just keep it to ourselves. This is common. Having imposter syndrome is very common in tech, but I think it's more common in women, because we are always questioning. This happens because of the way we were raised, and the assumption that we have. We have to question everything that we are doing. So we have to stop that and believe in ourselves and what we can do, and that will show everyone in our field, outside of the field, in the community. We can show everyone what we are actually capable of, and share that with everyone, and that will help a great deal in breaking the bias, in my opinion.
Thanks a lot, Hannah. Onyinye, I don't know if you would like to add something about what Anna's actually said.
Yes, I totally agree with what Anna said. I think in the tech industry, right, to achieve this greater gender diversity or equity, the industry itself has to play a major role, right? Which is what people have said here already on this panel, that we cannot emphasize the fact that the industry itself also it's guilty of this, and needs to be deliberate about changing changing the equation, right? And so for me, I think in addition to mentorship, right, even as colleagues, we need to foster a supportive culture, right? Promote like a safe and respectful workplace, which is where I think the HR also helps drive, right? To make sure that we're addressing things like discrimination, providing opportunities for career growth and advancement, like others have said, providing mentorship and sponsorship system, right? Because a mentorship is actually a very powerful tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we need it in our career in order to advance in leadership role, right? So also providing leadership training, because it's one thing to say we want women to lead. It's also important that they have the know-how to be able to perform at optimum in that particular role. Exactly, hiring equally, right? Promotion practice is important, because it's one thing to actually get someone hired, then we'll now begin to wonder, how do you measure performance in the workplace, so that how are people promoted, you know, on all of those things. Everything kind of works hand in hand together. So having speaking engagements, conferences, those are ways to basically encourage women, and companies should actually imbibe some of these in order to support and change this bias. That's it.
Well said. Okay. Actually, one thing that caught my attention amongst your speech, girls, would be training. So, how do you keep up with, the latest trends and the latest technologies? Maybe can you suggest a few, for example, it can be what are the certifications that you've taken, or are you following or any other type of training that you can propose to those that are listening to us today to be successful in this technology field?
Right, so I'll start with answering this. Personally, so in our industry, obviously the tech we use, the tools we use, they're changing very rapidly. So needless to say, it's very important to keep up to date with that. Personally, what I do within my team is every new task we're working on, we make sure that we dedicate time to research and investigation. So we incorporate it as part of the task. Having said that, it's very important that our managers they appreciate the importance of this, because obviously it needs to come from top down. So apart from that, so it's part of my day-to-day job basically. Apart from that, what I find really effective with learning new things, believe it or not, is discussions with my colleagues, especially the geeky characters. I'm sure every team has them, and it has always resulted very fruitful. Apart from all this, then in my own time, then I do occasional reading and topics I'm interested in. I follow newsletters such as InfoKey, for example. So yeah, basically that. Personally, at the moment, I'm not doing any formal training. I don't really have that much time for it at the moment. So yeah, but for me, it is part of the job, basically. It's that.
Okay, thank you. And Hannah or Onyinye, do you have any other suggestion for our audience?
Yeah, it's basically the same with what Sarah has mentioned: reading tech blogs, following tech professionals who make some videos on social medias, on YouTube, on Twitter. They just make a follow-up on some specific technology stack. So when we say technology, it's a very vast thing. So we might need to follow up on some specific thing. So we have to keep up with that, because the technology there's not something new every day. So we have to keep up with that and learn what's new every day. So I would say one thing to always do is have a 20 minutes or 30 minutes dedicated every day for reading purpose, just to keep updated outside working time. You just have to keep updated with the trends, what's new in technology, reading newsletters, participating in tech forums, asking questions, answering questions. Both ways helps. If you have some knowledge about some technology and there's some question on that related area, and if you know the answer to that, you can answer that. That will also help you to just solidify the knowledge that you have. And if you have some doubts, and you will research on that area and give an answer to the question, which will add to your knowledge base. So it's a very beneficial thing to become a mentor and help others resolve their problem. and listening to podcasts. We can do this while we are doing different activities, because it's a thing that we can multitask on. So that's a very opportunity to do as well. And keeping up with different, because technology itself helps us to have a different means of information, so we can use all of that to keep up with the latest things. And keeping up with the latest thing is a very important thing in technology, so keeping that in mind is necessary.
Thank you. If no one has anything else to add, I'm going to shift to some questions that we received from our audience. So the first question is, what are some common challenges that women in tech face while working remotely, and how can they be addressed?
I think, if I may go, I think rather than women in tech, it's a general, I think, common challenge, to be fair, because I believe the lack of the confusion of your personal life with your career. I believe the time when you're working from home or you're working from anywhere, actually, it's not like you've packed your things and you're going home. It's like you're continuously working. You stay longer than you usual. So you have to be very diligent. I believe that whenever you have to allocate time, both for your personal life and both for your career, because then, of course, when the boundary is not set, it tends to result in a burnt out, of course, because of course you're constantly going and you're trying to keep up with things, but that sort of cycle continues and continues. I think maybe one situation which women in tech, but not women in tech necessarily. I mean, it's a general challenge. Sometimes it's the equipment used, of course, but being technology is always updating. I believe the equipment has to be updated as well. So, of course, that can be overcome by the companies providing the necessary, even though we're working remotely, the companies providing the necessary equipment rather than, but it's not a common challenge within women per se. It's a common challenge for all in tech, I believe.
Thank you.
Can add on to that. So other things, so definitely I agree with Chantel. I think some of us face it ourselves within COVID. Well, I was working extremely remote from home and my work-life balance was not existent. So over there, obviously, other than like Chantel saying, you being very kind of, strict with yourself, I think companies here have to really like help their employees, raise awareness on like mental health, prioritizing their self-care, and giving them the necessary kind of training to do so. So I don't know, something small, but marking in their calendars every day, example, time for a break from 12 to 12:30. So at least it's just something marked in calendars and it's a reminder for people to take a break. Other than that, I think communication probably tends to get, it could be a bit harder when working remote. So communication and collaborating. So here, obviously, again, training comes into it, giving training on the necessary communication, and also providing, again, the right tools, as Chantel was saying, in order to be able to collectively collaborate. And probably sometimes, I mean, it probably could be for anyone a feeling of isolation to a certain point, completely working remotely. But especially as Sarah said, maybe in the tech world, it's more obviously of a male-dominated, let's say, area. So probably, women are already feeling maybe slightly excluded and isolated. So over here, obviously, there's a huge responsibility to create kind of the space and the opportunity for people to meet up, virtually. It could be, socially or on team building or a work basis. So I would say those are my additions, obviously, when it comes to kind of remote challenges.
If I may just add something, yeah, I think so. Pre-COVID, I haven't really worked remote, but I work with I have team members who are fully remote who I've never really met in person. And the challenge that I find with remote working is sometimes it's difficult to build a social relationship with the people, because you know when you're at the office, you occasionally just chat with people. There's maybe jokes running around, and with online it's a bit difficult. So I think that would be concerning for me if I had to work fully remote.
To add up on what you said, Sarah, I think this is why it's important, to have virtual meetings, or it can also be a virtual team building, just for the team to bond themselves and work together. Yeah. Another question that we got from our audience is, what is something you wish you knew before entering the tech industry? So here we would like to have the opinion of the tech girls.
Okay, I can go ahead. So I think there's nothing really per se that I would say I wish I've known. It's more, I wish I was prepared even better for the industry. So as I said, I joined this industry almost 10 years ago now as a junior software developer, and it was my first full-time job just after I graduated university.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember the shock that I felt, and it's mostly, I think, because one, I've never seen that amount of code before, and there were some tools like build tools like version control, which I was never introduced to during my education. I have to say I've never had any internship, so for sure that would have definitely helped. But maybe, I don't know, maybe if in part of my training we could have had, I don't know, some speakers coming over and maybe explaining the day-to-day job, like what Emma said, would go, they get people, they get students, if I understood you correctly, joining them. But what if instead, like, we were to go to schools, to universities, to explain a bit, how we work, give a bit more idea, exposure of the industry. That is obviously, then you'd get used to it, right? Because you just learn new stuff. But I remember really feeling shocked, like, yeah. But other than that, I don't think nothing else would come to mind.
Okay, I was seeing Hannah agreeing to what you were saying, so maybe you have more insight for us.
Yeah. I just it reminded me of my first employment as well. So the first day I have joined, our boss just gave us a pen and paper and asked us to write all the technologies, the tech stack, the IDEs that we will be working on. So out of the 10 or 11 things that he have listed, I only know 2 of those things that he has mentioned. So I was, maybe I don't belong here. Why am I even here? I was just questioning myself. And once I get the tutorials and the documentation, it was like, oh, this is the easiest way to solve some problems. I just was assuming the worst from what I have seen. So I agree with her. Yeah, if we have some trainings about what's the latest implementation in the industry, what we have in school and the industry is on a different level. We just have the basic explanation in school. We don't have what we will be actually working on the industry. So having that explanation and maybe have the exposure, because there are different tutorials and documentation on the internet, but we weren't aware where to look even. So I wish I knew those things before I began, but it's a very interesting thing. So I was able to catch up quickly, yeah. But
today,
yeah,
I'm sure you master it.
Yeah, for some part of it, but I still have to do a lot every day.
So given we are running out of time, so I'll take a final question. So how can women in technology who are not able or willing to relocate find opportunities for career advancement and growth within their current location or through remote work? So I think Emma or Chantal is best to
Yes,
answer
I
us
can
here.
go. Definitely. So we've mentioned this kind of previously earlier on, but obviously since companies have had to look at their recruitment strategies and solutions and find ways how to get a more diverse workforce and broaden their talent pool. I think obviously remote working has increased. So obviously if companies before would only recruit locally, now they've obviously had to kind of look, further on and elsewhere, let's say. So basically, I think it's very important for people, to just keep upskilling themselves. So as our techies were saying on this call, it's super important, the only way you're going to thrive in this industry is to keep upskilling yourself, learning new things every day. In fact, our Go Academy thing is #learning every day. But it really is about that. And I think that keeps you, really attractive, obviously, as a candidate. And obviously gives you an edge over other candidates. Also, it's about, we've been saying this kind of, I think, the whole seminar, the whole workshop. So finding mentors, people reaching out and building your network, going on LinkedIn, looking for people in your same field and professionals in your field and those with the same goals as yours, because at the end of the day, you need these people. One, amazing, because you're tapping into other connections of other people, so you're growing your kind of base, so you're growing your opportunity obviously at the same time. But second of all, you need those people to lean on, to get advice from, to get feedback from, to, as Sarah was saying, get knowledge from, you know what I mean? So she would have, maybe her people at the office or remotely, but you'd need to find kind of these people over social media platforms or LinkedIn or so on. So I think these are all very important things that one would need to do. As I said, I think remote working, as we've been discussing, is coming increasingly common. So as long as you just keep yourself up to date, you keep learning, and I mean, you start growing your base, I think, one would be able to find, certain opportunities and growth, obviously, if they put their mind to it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have something to add?
No, basically, I agree 100% with Emma. I mean, it's through such networking events and through upskilling that people will continue, women continue to thrive in such a field. I mean, it's through such, even for example, this webinar, we're promoting diversity, we're promoting inclusion programs, and it actually it's offering mentoring and networking opportunities for various other women across the globe. So great sort of initiative in regards to women in tech.
Okay. So I would like to thank you very much, ladies, for sharing all your thoughts and your experience with us today. Actually, it makes a difference for myself because I've learned from your experience, especially on the bias part. And I definitely agree with you that companies should provide initiatives like trainings as well as equal opportunities to women looking towards working in technology. And of course, we won't be able to fully remove the inequality that exists, between men and women. But with initiatives taken by companies, I'm sure that at the end of the day, we can make a difference through our actions. So before ending this session, I would like to thank the speakers for responding, for accepting actually, to participate today, as well as the digital performance and human capital team at Castile for all the support you've provided to make this webinar a success today. And on behalf of all the Castilians, we would like to also thank the audience for your participation. We could not answer all your questions, unfortunately, but we shall take on the questions from your side, and we will be answering them and sending them to you via email, actually. So thank you once again, and I'm looking forward to our next session.